Hi, this is Jack with Jack Banks Design. Welcome to another edition of Friday Fails. It's been a while. Um, have not had a lot of trouble finding broken bolts. Uh, had a lot of trouble getting people to actually follow through shipping them. It was just, I kept having to, because people contact me so they had the bolt, and then I wouldn't hear from them. Call them back or email them back or whatever. And it just got to where I was having to pretty persistently bug people. um, so I just kind of stopped doing that. So no lack of broken bolts out there, just it's very hard to get people to follow through. But anyways, this person did, contacted me and promptly shipped it out, so appreciate that. um, but yeah, this is actually a very high end AR. Again, I'm not gonna drop names, but this is a very high end AR, and he said after about 5,000 rounds, it started having ejection issues. So it could be a weak ejector spring, um, possibly worn gas rings, something along those lines. But in any case, moral of the story is he replaced it, and it's working fine. I have no doubt there's nothing wrong with the bolt itself. Um, he could have rebuilt it with new parts. Like I said, probably could be a combination of worn gas rings and weak ejector spring, something like that. But in any case, he just popped a new bolt in rather than so that. Well, that brings up another topic. I've started doing bolt rebuilds because it came to my attention that if you rebuild the bolt yourself, especially if you have to buy the little the little holder jig to pop out your ejector roll pin. Um, you can basically buy. You got to rebuild a lot of bolts. You know to justify buying those tools, and but anyway, since I have the parts on hand and have the tools, if you buy an RFAC from me, I will rebuild your bolt for the cost of parts. So, quick aside there. But in any case, about 5,000 rounds, especially on an SBR, that's kind of where you're going to start maybe having issues, where like, it comes time to replace an ejector, extractor, replace a spring, something like that. So, and I mean, it's not hard to get to 5,000 rounds, if you shoot fairly often. Um, if you're not deliberately keeping real good track of your round count, it is just so easy to just kind of, you know, get up there in the 5 to 10,000 round mark and, not even realize you've shot that much. And then, you're very surprised when what you think is a, pretty lightly used AR starts having these kinds of issues. Um, but if you keep one of these guys in your range bag, all you got to do is pop in the new bolt, and then you can take. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with this bolt. I'm sure it'll go probably another 10,000 rounds before it starts cracking lugs or something like that. But but if you have the RFAC, you can just pop in your spare and then diagnose the issue and fix whatever needs to be fixed at your own leisure, and not have your range trip or your competition or worse, if you're um, actually in the service, deployed. um, that's that's no fun. So yeah, anyways, like I said, if you got a broken bolt, send me your broken bolt and I'll send you an RFAC. If it's something like this that the bolt's perfectly fine, it just it's one of the little parts, needs new gas rings or something like that, Um, like I said, around that 5,000 round mark, that's typically when it's a good idea to go ahead and overhaul it. New extractor, new ejector, new springs. Um, but yeah, contact me about that if you got an old bolt that's maybe got a worn out ejector or something, and I'll like I said, I'll rebuild it for the cost of parts. All you got to do is buy an RFAC from me. So, all right, well, I'll go ahead and sign out.